Open your kitchen drawer. Take out a fork. Look at it closely. Why does it have 4 tines? Not 2. Like a skewer. Not 3. Just enough to get the job done. Not 5 or 6 for dramatic effect. 4. A number so ordinary, so balanced, that we rarely think to question it. Here's the interesting part. No one originally decreed that a fork must have 4 tines. That number is the result of centuries of trial and error of messy dinners. Noodles slipping off steel prongs. Meat that wouldn't stay put. The fork in your hand is an optimized design, refined through generations of real-world beta testing at humanity's dining tables. And once you begin dissecting it like a mechanical engineer, you realize this is no simple utensil. It's a physics problem that has already been solved and quietly tucked away in a kitchen drawer. The earliest European forks had only 2 tines. They resembled small carving tools, more than eating utensils. Their main job wasn't to bring food to the mouth, but to steady a piece of meat while it was being cut. People still ate mostly with their hands. The fork was just an assistant. The challenge emerged as cuisine evolved. In the 16th and 17th centuries, pasta and other noodle dishes became more common. Try twirling spaghetti with a 2-tined fork, and you'll immediately understand why humanity needed a hardware upgrade. 2 tines simply couldn't hold soft, slippery structures. Food slid away as if trying to escape. So a 3rd tine was added. Logical, right? Here's the twist. A 3-tined fork creates an asymmetrical gap. When you pierce something soft, the force isn't distributed evenly. Imagine gripping a marble with 3 fingers. One finger will always carry more pressure than the others. In mechanics, uneven force distribution increases the likelihood of slipping. That's exactly what happened. Noodles still fell. Peas still rolled. Meat still twisted out of alignment. 3 turned out to be an awkward compromise. A more balanced structure was needed. Enter the 4th tine. 4 tines create 2 parallel gaps. It sounds simple, but mechanically, it's a leap forward. When you press a fork into food, the force from your hand travels down through the tines. With 4, that force divides into 2 symmetrical pairs, like standing on 2 legs instead of 1. The result is noticeably greater stability. There's another factor people rarely consider: contact area. Too few tines mean limited surface contact, and food slips off easily. Too many tines narrow the gap so much that the fork starts resembling a comb. You can't easily pierce a thick piece of meat. 4 tines sit in the mechanical sweet spot, balanced between penetration and retention, sparse enough to pierce cleanly, dense enough to hold firmly. Now for a small but fascinating number. The average spacing between the tines of a modern fork is around 2–3 millimeters. That may sound tiny, but those 2 millimeters are just enough to grip a strand of pasta without slicing it in half. It's roughly the thickness of a thin coin. A slight deviation from that spacing would noticeably change the dining experience. See what's happening here? A tool that appears ordinary is quietly balancing 4 actions at once: pierce, hold, lift, and deliver all in one fluid motion. Look closer. And there's an even subtler detail than the number of tines. Why is it curved? Hold your fork at eye level. You'll notice the head tilts upward slightly. Not dramatically, just a few degrees. But enough to matter. If a fork were completely flat, soft foods like rice or salad would slide right off. That gentle curvature forms a shallow cradle, helping secure food before it reaches your mouth. There's also a structural reason. When you press down on a piece of meat, the slight curve helps distribute stress along the neck of the fork, rather than concentrating it at the junction between head and handle. In engineering, spreading force reduces the risk of fracture. Picture bending a straight metal rod versus one with a subtle arch. The curved one resists stress more effectively because of its geometry. That's why arched bridges can stand for centuries. And it's why your fork doesn't snap when you're battling a stubborn steak. Then there's ergonomics. That small curve optimizes the trajectory from plate to mouth, reducing the chance of poking the inside of your cheek. It may sound amusing, but this is a genuine design challenge. shaping a tool to align with the natural motion of the wrist. A fork isn't just a piece of metal. It's the intersection of mechanics, anatomy, and social habit. We spend hours discussing smartphones, tray nanometer chips, artificial intelligence that can write poetry. Yet the fork, an invention refined over centuries, barely earns a second glance. 4 tines weren't chosen at random. They are the outcome of countless imperfect meals. The curvature wasn't added for decoration. It's a solution to problems of force and motion. The fork is a masterpiece of engineering disguised as something ordinary. Perhaps the greatest risk to brilliant design isn't criticism. It's becoming so familiar that we stop questioning it altogether. The next time you pick up a fork, remember, you're holding a blueprint that humanity has been fine-tuning for hundreds of years. And if you enjoy this kind of object dissection, there's another character waiting to be interrogated. It also has teeth, but it isn't used for eating, and its story is even sharper.